I talk about dealing with critics a lot of time during the holiday season, but truth is, anytime we're getting together with friends and family, we can bump into uncomfortable situations. So this week I want to talk about how are we going to prep for these kinds of gatherings? Maybe it's summer potlucks or hanging out on holidays like the 4th of July or family reunions or birthdays. Lots of these happen in summer months when the kids are out of school and their schedules are more flexible. So let's talk about how to handle it all. Inevitably, someone is going to ask, what are they learning? Do you do school year round? Why are you doing this when we have such a good local school system? All the typical questions. Preparing ahead of time is the key. So if you're new to the Unschooling Mom to Mom podcast, welcome. I'm Sue Patterson, mom to 3 grown unschoolers, now all in their 30s, living typical young adult lives, owning homes, raising families, and running businesses. And yes, they got into college or whatever higher level education they needed to do what they wanted, all while enjoying their childhood and taking this unconventional approach to learning. I've circled back around to help families see that yes, this does work. No, doors won't close, but you'll need to take a little action on your part to undo some of the thinking that we all grew up with. Usually, these were ways to keep us conforming to whatever the adults had planned out for us. And some of these ideas are really in deep. I have ways to get you more support and unschooling resources at the website. I'll get you some links in the show notes. Also, for those of you who do go over to the website while you're listening or after you've listened to the podcast, you'll sometimes see that I have free and paid PDFs or courses to help you dive deeper. I've decided to open a section in my shop that's specific for free resources. I've created 2 new PDFs that are in there. One is 7 secrets to be successful, and the other is a 1-page checklist to help you get started unschooling. So I'll put the link in the show notes, but if you go to the unschoolingmomtomom.com website, you can click shop or store, and the freebies are at the top of the list over on the left. Okay, enough about all of that. I want to focus on dealing with our skeptics. It's interesting because depending on where we are in the process, what our own confidence level is, we can interpret their questions in so many different ways. Think about it. Sure, tone will matter, but our perception may borrow a little trouble too. A simple question of why are you doing this could be answered with school just wasn't going to work for us. Pass the potato salad. Or if it's someone we've often taken advice from and we know they don't like this idea, we might freeze a little. If it's someone who's criticized us a lot in the past, we're going to have a completely different response. So before you go to any of these get togethers, think about who will be there and what you think they'll ask. Then think about what you'll answer. Get specific. How can you get out of the spotlight? The one that actually feels like an interrogation light. One thing I learned a long time ago was just because someone asks a particular question doesn't mean you have to answer it. You can completely redirect it by saying something you want to talk about, or say the better question would be, and give one that you'd like to answer or feel more comfortable with. And you can always say, can we talk about this another time? I'd prefer to not talk about it in front of, I don't know, the kids, Aunt Sally, Grandpa. Remember, you're a grown up. You don't have to respond to everyone. And sometimes our families aren't really used to us stepping into our roles as adults, as parents. They may still see us as the little sister or the needy one. We all mature, though. And even if that was your history, it doesn't have to be how you are now. Your kids are actually counting on you to step up to the plate and not fall back into those old family roles. You may have to help the kids navigate a little bit too. Typical questions can stump a kid if you haven't talked with them ahead of time. So let's think about what some of those could be. What grade are you in now? You've got a few options in how to answer, and usually the kids just want to get out of the hot seat as quickly as possible. Kids may feel the pressure and may not do well with it. They may just turn into a deer in headlights, which leaves everyone in the room wondering, why couldn't they answer a simple question like that? I've even known kids to throw their parents under the bus when they don't know what to answer when someone said, what are you learning these days? Or what's your mother teaching you? They may say, nothing. We don't learn anything. Well, that's the typical answer of most school kids, too. But as the only homeschooler in the room, everyone's going to turn to you. The room will fall silent, and you will inevitably feel your face begin to flush. So let's think ahead of time and see if we can sidestep some of these typical conversational train wrecks. What grade are you in? Pick one. What grade are most kids their age? Or say we don't separate into grades. I might be third grade in math and eighth grade in science. Chatty kids may like that kind of answer, but many just want an easy way out. Fourth grade, Grandma. To the what are you learning these days question. Think about cool places you've been or interesting things you've watched. I'm really into Shark Week lately, or we started going to the Nature Center. I had no idea science could be so interesting. You could also talk about what's going on in the lives of the other people at the get together. What could you ask them? How was Paris? How's Tanya doing on the volleyball team? When are tryouts for whatever they're into? That way, the quizzing isn't only directed at the homeschooled kids, because that is something you could pull your brother aside and say, why do you do that to my kids and not all the kids here? Because that's not right. I'm going to have a hard time talking them into coming again if you keep trying to make them uncomfortable. Nothing like facts, right? I know it takes a little courage, but you've thought about it ahead of time. You're not kicking yourself the next day wishing you had said something to someone. That's why I want you to think about it now. And remember the quote, you don't have to attend every fight you're invited to. It's a good one to remind your kids too. They can always say, oh, that sounds like a question mom will have to answer for you. Sometimes the other kids might give your kids a hard time, and it helps to give them some suggestions for responses, like, why you always got to talk about school? Don't you do anything fun? And that might help get them to redirect the conversation a little bit. I do have a few other podcasts that are specific to the holiday season, but these scenarios are going to surface all year long. I'll put a link to those in the show notes and then also over at the website. Remember a couple more things, though. You can arrive late and leave early. You can stay somewhere else so you're not under the magnifying glass. You can skip it all together. You can read up on research about homeschooling and unschooling, and I have a link for that if you need help articulating some of the concepts to friends and family who are really interested. You can point them to my YouTube channel. You don't have to defend your choices to anyone. They're your choices. It doesn't mean that you have to get mad at them. You can just smile and say to yourself, not today, dearie. Quick. Yeah, I know it's different, but I don't want to spend this whole weekend trying to help everyone understand. Can we talk about something else? It's part of that maturity timeline that you are on. Getting okay with truly individualizing your life. That's new. Stepping away from conformity, making your own choices. That's the basis of unschooling anyway. Prioritize your kids and your relationship with them, and that means at these get-togethers too. So I hope this helps you overcome these tricky situations, and I'll be back to talk with you again next week.